Gender from the Latin genus, a taxonomical category, from the Greek genos, which is etymologically linked to birth, to race, to origins. In the modern, gender is used to separate sex from the social application of sex, because that's what gender is. It is the adaptation of specialized reproductive roles within a society, governed by a specific ideology with its own culture. It's governed by its own underlying culture, that is. The culture determines the ethics, the ideals upon which gender will be applied. But gender is not independent from the sexual roles. It is anchored on sexual roles. And these roles are reproductive. The fact that sex acquires additional roles is a secondary issue, which I'm not going to explore now. But the primary objective of sex is reproduction. So when we talk about male-female sexual roles, we're talking about reproductive roles. And these roles can be placed within a spectrum, but this spectrum is not as the postmoderns like to think of it. It indicates the traits, the physical and the psychological traits essential to carrying out successfully this reproductive roles, which is corrupted within man-made environments, because man intervenes into everything. So in this case as well, and this corruption is not entirely positive. There are negative repercussions, because with every positive there are collateral negative side effects, which moderns and postmoderns refuse to acknowledge. So if we use the terminology masculine and feminine to refer to the spectrum of the reproductive roles of male and female, then the masculine would indicate an individual that has more of the necessary physical and psychological traits required to carry out a successful reproduction. And the same applies for the concept, the term feminine. So another way to think of it is when we say masculine or feminine, we're giving a evaluation, a value judgment. And like I said, a value judgment is always in reference to an objective, which in this case is reproduction. It's an estimation of the subject, the conscious mind, its objective, and its evaluation of the effort required to attain its objective. In this case, the masculine and feminine value judgments evaluate an individual's probability of reproducing, which, like I said, is modified. It is corrupted by human interventions, which adjust these probabilities with positive and a lot of negative consequences. The development of postmodern paraphilic practices, as noted by Paglia and others, is usually an indication of a culture's decline. As a culture declines towards its demise, its end, one of the symptoms is an increase in the population's sexual practices. It's the canary in the mine shaft, so to speak. So an increase in paraphilic sexual practices, which do not help in reproduction, but are usually hedonistic and distracting, and a way of expunging accumulating libidinal energies, is a symptom of a society's decline. Because when these sexual deviances increase, what is affected is demographics, and demographics indicates a decrease in a group's and a society's ability to compete with other societies. So this idea of not involving yourself with the what happens in another person's bedroom is a rational concept we can all agree upon, but it's not entirely correct, because what happens in another person's bedroom, what another person is doing sexually, does impact society at large. It impacts it demographically. Nobody ever says that. Nobody admits this. But it does have a negative effect that affects everybody. So by ignoring it, you cannot become immune to it. You're still going to be affected by it indirectly. Because, like I said, it affects the demographics. It affects the ability of a group to reproduce its most valuable resource, which is its human resources. And a group that can't replicate, can't reproduce, can't increase its numbers, cannot compete with other groups. And this affects its survival. That's why, like Paglia and others said, this is usually a sign of a civilization's decline.